Hey everybody, Jen here, Lady Wolverton, back for another Thursday night book club. We're doing Caitlyn 5 or chapter 29. I want to say hey to Connie who's in the chat, and I want to introduce our guest, Living My Rhapsody, LMR, a fellow gangbanger for all you other gangbangers out there. And I'm going to go ahead and let her introduce herself.
Hi everyone, I'm LMR. What do? I guess reviews of various things on my one channel. It's Living Reviews. And then I have my other channel, Living My Rhapsody. That's my writing channel. So you can find some tips for writing over there. Yep.
Awesome. Bran?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm Bran the Builder. I'm here every week. So I'm here. I'm on Amino. I'm on every social media you can probably think of. And yeah, so.
And Bran, you have a new YouTube channel coming out that you're trying to get sorted, right?
Yeah.
It's hard.
One of these days we'll figure out what we're doing wrong. I swear we're going to do it.
I believe you. It's going to be awesome too. That's AB's Corner, y'all. Go ahead and subscribe. All right. So we're on Caitlyn 5 or chapter 29 if you're looking at the audiobook or what have you. And basically we've got Caitlyn continuing on her journey with Sir Roderick, and they're pretty well out of King's Landing now, but still very much in the south in Caitlyn's neck of the woods. And they're going down what I assume to be the King's Road, and it's raining. And Sir Roderick says for Caitlyn to cover her head, and she says, it's only water, Sir Roderick. And she's fine, and she actually is kind of enjoying the rain because it's summer rain, and it's warm, and she thinks of it, it reminds her of being a girl. It brings her back to being in the Godswood at River Run, playing with Peter, Lysa, and her little brother. She not too long after that, Sir Roderick says to her, I'm soaked through. Both of us could use a hot meal and a fire tonight. And Caitlyn kind of comes out of it. She's kind of lost in space, basically, is the way I take it. We'll get a lot of inner thoughts from Caitlyn at this point, which we'll discuss after. And she said, well, there's an inn right up ahead. And it's the famous Inn at the Crossroads, right? I don't think any inn in all of Westeros gets more action than this Inn at the Crossroads. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Just a second, guys. Sarah's texting me.
Oh, I'll take over.
Go ahead.
She gets to the inn. They go upstairs. They get dressed, changed, cleaned up, and then they go back downstairs. They sit down, gets about to eat, and Marillion, we get the first introduction to him. He sits down. He's talking with them, trying to play some music. Well, of course, in walks Tyrion and all his Lannister hype. He walks through and gets the room from the free rider. When they have their showdown, where
Uh-oh.
My earphones are kind of messing up. Yeah, that's where we end the chapter. Is she's taking calls on all the all the vassals, and takes Tyrion hostage. So immediately the first line it says, tells Caitlyn to cover her face, cover her head. And we know Lady Stoneheart later always has her head covered, and she refuses there. It's an opposite parallel from the very first line of this story, or this chapter. We're getting hinted at Lady Stoneheart.
Okay.
Where? Sorry, I'm wandering around looking for my lighter. Notebook.
And later on, when you mention it, she also mentions there's also a lot of mention of the water.
Mm-hmm.
They keep saying water, and it's only water. Then a lot of talking about rain and mud. So this is kind of the image she has when they, I guess, later on, it's, when she's being dragged out of water, muddy and all.
And Roderick says, he's soaked to the bone. He's wet all the way to the bone.
Yeah.
Yes, he does.
I mean, there's major imagery going on there. Then we also see that she's ragged and road worn. I mean, she doesn't look like the high lady she's supposed to be.
Yeah.
We're getting a lot of Stoneheart imagery through the entire chapter.
Yeah.
We could look at just about every paragraph, pick out 3 or 4 Stoneheart imageries. But then we see Jason Mallister. He rides right past her and doesn't even bat an eye because she doesn't. She just looks like some traveler on the road. Oh.
All right, just a sec, y'all. I'm having some issues here. Trying to get them in the call. Okay, I got it. Okay, now they should try. Okay. Okay. Okay, I think I got it.
I'm waiting on a pizza too.
Nothing like a watched oven. Okay. I think I got it. Sarah Aggie, I think I got it correct. It had me kind of put out too, but it couldn't exactly put me out since I was the one who started it. But I jumped back in, and I think that's what was blocking you all from joining. Just pop on in when you can and text me again if you can. Okay. And do we need
lots of imagery? Lots of imagery.
Imagery, symbolism. Let's and we also need to talk about did you mention the fact that this is where she takes Tyrion prisoner? Right here.
Yeah. That's where I ended it.
Okay. I'm sorry. Admittedly, I was trying to work with the computer to get the ladies in here.
You're good. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and get into the more in-depth stuff.
All right.
And so
I guess the first thing I noticed was she can imagine how ragged and wild she must look, but for once she did not care.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, welcome, Sarah. I'm sorry. That was my bad, girl.
Mine.
This foreshadows her being wet from the river and wild in appearance in future, how she will appear all the time, not just at this particular moment. That's what I have.
No, it's especially these first few paragraphs. They're heavy Stoneheart imagery. It's an opposite parallel, is what I see it as. You get the Caitlyn, the nurturing mother, the mother's kissed. It even says, and then you got, and actually it says something about the. I'm gonna pull that up real quick. The ice and the rain. It basically shows Lady Stoneheart, that freezing ice and give me one.
Yeah, it talks about that in the north, no rain for little girls to play in. So yeah, it's water everywhere. It just reminds me of her being covered in mud and just not being herself, not being ladylike at all.
Also, the fact that Caitlyn acknowledges, I look crazy and I don't even care. One of the first things a doctor will determine when you walk in his office is, does this person have their hair combed? Do they have a bath? Are they in general, just doing these everyday things that most people in their right mind or who feel well would put a certain level of importance on. And this is probably, I've got to say, I think this gives us a little bit of insight into Caitlyn's mind and just how... just her mind state, so to speak. I believe she is in deep despair and worried and troubled, and she's not really knowing what she's going to do particularly. She just is in the direction to go home at this point, I believe. And a reoccurring theme... She's
conflicted too, though.
She is conflicted, but a reoccurring theme in the book is preconceived judgment. And it's not just about... judging a book by its cover in these books. It's about how high they are already placed on the shelf. So the fact that she's going around looking a mess, not being a high lady, and she's experiencing that and she enjoys it a little bit, but it's almost like she's got to, because like Bloodworth said in the chat, right before she arrests Tyrion, she notices that her father's bannermen really aren't the most loyal or the greatest, but it's almost like she is, kind of a little bit in a crazy space in her head and she doesn't care. And it's almost like she's daring shit to happen or shit to jump off, in my opinion, which I don't know, coming from a female perspective, sometimes we're just right on that edge. I know for myself, but
I'm not going into that one.
Right, no, you better not.
I plead the fifth.
I can't brag about this. I wish I could, but I've got 3 mothers here with me tonight, and I was glad about that because maybe we can make a little sense of Caitlyn's headspace, even if we think she is kind of a bossy girl.
I don't know. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm on here with 3 moms to defend Caitlyn against Tyrion. I could not be happier. I was coming in thinking I was just gonna get beat up so bad.
Here's this quote. It says, Caitlyn had forgotten. In the north, the rain fell cold and hard, and sometimes at night it turned to ice. It was likely to kill crops as nurture it. It sent grown men running for the nearest shelter. That was no rain for little girls to play in. It just shows the dichotomy of Caitlyn and Lady Stoneheart, how they're opposites basically. But I mean, I think that kill the crops as much as nurture it. I mean, that just shows the extremes of Caitlyn.
And what you were saying, Sarah, she feels very much in place where she is at, and I think that emboldens her. Like if she had been in the South at that inn, that she has known Masha is the landlord. She knows what they serve. She's surrounded by people who answer to her father. And I'm sorry, maybe we've only seen Jaime Lannister and Cersei Lannister, my daddy, my daddy, my daddy, but we hear it from every one of them, just not quite. You know what I mean? So a Lannister always, but Caitlyn, she recognizes that all her life she's been above these people. So even though she's supposed to be incognito, all of a sudden when she really jumps out, to take control, she is really quite something. And Bubba Husky sent me some notes and pointed out, man, Caitlyn is such a bossy bee, just a bossy bee in this chapter. Ladies.
For that, like
what was I thinking in this dream?
She mentioned, or it was mentioned that she just didn't care. So she kind of, that's loud. So she mentioned that she just didn't care, and then later on, when it came time to actually act, she said there's no time to think. So I don't think that she was planning on doing anything because she was hiding from them. It's not like she went out looking for him and she didn't stand up right away and said, hey, it's you. And then did her thing. She was trying to avoid him. But when it came to actually doing something, she didn't hesitate. She just got up and did her thing. And she struck hard, like any mother would, I guess. Yeah. So that's kind of my opinion on it.
What was I thinking getting in this stream?
No.
Well, you were thinking that you probably had me here. I'm a mom too, but I don't necessarily agree with Kat's actions. She completely changed the course of history when she arrested Tyrion without any solid evidence that he did anything to Bran. So I feel like she's wishy-washy. She's wishy-washy in her head, but she makes these grand overtures that have like effects that she cannot stop. She can't take back. She's impulsive with her actions.
No, I agree with you too. I mean, for the record, I don't like cats. She is
me either.
She is. But the thing about this book is that I shouldn't say nobody, but almost nobody is perfect over there. And it's supposed to be like that. They're not supposed to be perfect because not every mother is perfect. But I think almost every mother would do everything possible to protect her kid, even though she would look like some kind of nut. She wouldn't care. They would kill. People would kill for their children. And that's what she was ready to do. I'm not saying you know, she was right, she was wrong, but I don't know what I would do. Who knows what I would do? I don't even know what I would do as a mother.
Every mother is a potential murderer, is what I always say.
I'm not saying
When
no,
you have children,
no.
you know, once you test that.
Yeah, no, because mothers don't even know what they're capable of, and
That's
they found
right.
out.
You see mothers lift a
exactly
car off a baby. You
Yeah.
see mothers do these superhuman things to protect their children. And I have to draw a parallel between, because like when we were thinking about, when have been reading this chapter all week, you know, Caitlyn and Cersei really aren't that different. One of them's a little bit more showy in her grandiosity, but they are both probably not two chicks I would have been friends with.
Right.
No.
Completely. I would not have friended either one of them on Facebook or otherwise.
I would have thought Caitlyn was a perpetrator, and I would have thought Cersei was just too stuck up.
Yeah. Although I think I would prefer Cat for to have dinner with her and wine, not Cersei. I would not accept anything from Cersei.
Yeah, that's one you just ignore.
Right?
Yes. Yes.
Can I argue pro Cat for a little bit?
Please do so.
Absolutely.
Okay, because she's not necessarily my favorite chapter from the very beginning or anything, but I do get very defensive about her. So am I sounding okay? Am I?
Yes,
okay.
You are.
Okay.
There's a little bit of crackling going on with your headset.
Mine?
Yes.
Bran has pizza. Oh,
Yes,
okay.
Bran, thank you.
I'm happy.
I'm hungry. Oh.
Before you start, Sarah, before you start on your defense of Caitlyn Stark, which I believe there is some defense of her, let me just shout out everybody in the chat. Connie, One With No Name, Bloodware Blocking, AB's Corner. Y'all click on AB's Corner. That is Bran and Aggie's new channel. All you have to do is click the icon to subscribe. Okay, y'all hit that like. Renee of
We
House
will
Stark
one day
is
get a
in
video.
here. Renee of House Stark is in here. I want to shout her out for sure. Jules
Hello,
Elizabeth,
Renee.
hello. Moni G, welcome back. Bloodware, did I
Hello.
mention you? I was just bragging on you the other day to my friend Viewer Hexa, a YouTuber from Germany that I'm friends with. All right, Sarah, please.
I was going to pull up the chat. Do I not want to see the chat when I talk about this?
No, you know,
You're
everybody
fine.
in our
Yeah.
chat is always cool.
I'm turning it off. All right. Can you hear me now? Does everything sound okay?
Mm-hmm.
We hear you fine.
All right. One of the things I admire about Kat is I feel like she has a situational awareness. Like she is riding around with Sir Roger Cassel, and there's people that are coming, and it's just a woman and a man, and they're going to act like they're just a dad and their daughter going about their business. But she knows they're not safe on the King's Road in the Riverlands because she grew up there. And so even though the Mallisters, quote, answer to her dad, or however we want to talk about it, the fact of the matter is that she wanted no trouble. She kept her head down. She wasn't trying to start a scene at any point. When Tyrion walks in, she's like, oh God. And it was that stupid Marillion. Sorry.
No.
It was that
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
Well,
Right there with you.
Marillion. I could choke Marillion out.
Poor
many a time.
baby gets beat up pretty bad later in the story. But yeah.
Sometimes you should shut your singing mouth.
To quote a link, can I quote you, Alicia Kingston? To pull some fuck shit was Marillion. Just that.
It was some
look.
bastardy bullshit.
They are obviously trying to travel incognito. Just be chill. That's how you get. Anyway. But from the show, I just remember I had not read the books when I saw this first in the show, and I was just like, holy shit, what is happening right now? If you threw me in enemy territory and I had to suddenly pick on every single person there as to why they should do exactly what I want to do, I don't think I could do that. Arya tries the same thing in the Riverlands. She's like, Harwin, you knew my dad, blah blah blah, and they're like, yeah, you're kidnapped. Like these, I think Kat played it pretty well considering what, you gotta consider where she was at. You know what I mean? I'll turn my mic off and let you all dog on that.
I wanted to add something to that. What you were saying, I agree with you too. I agree with everybody. But one of the things that I did not like about what she did is she said they're going to the Vale. No, she said they're going to Winterfell, and they went the other way. But I was thinking, why would she even want to go there? I mean, why would she need her sister to do anything? I was kind of, I don't know. Didn't she say, they're going to the Vale and actually go to Winterfell? It's not like they're going to be protected over there. They have people, right?
So I will say one other thing that I feel like I do love Kat for her situational awareness. I do hate that she has some serious blind spots when it comes to her sister and Littlefinger. She thinks she can trust them. And if you judge her as a woman who is going off of advice from her childhood friend whose life she saved, Brandon, he was like, anyway. And then she thinks her sister, she thinks back to their childhood and thinks of like happy memories. You know what I mean? She's like, he wouldn't betray me. No, like she got that so incredibly wrong. And so I feel like she's just kind of being batted around. Cuckoo, hey you.
It really is. And I've got some notes on this. Okay. So like I said earlier, she was reminiscing hard about River Run, the Godswood. Her and Lysa making mud pies for Peter. Some imagery it gives us is Peter would eat those mud pies for a week, and that the brown would go through her fingers, just like when she grabbed that knife. We get heavy imagery on blood in her fingers. And here's Peter eating shit.
Yeah.
There's an adjective for mud in this world. I got to go make mud. That means I got to go take a shit very politely. So Peter Baelish,
bullshit, pretty much.
Peter Baelish has been eating shit from these two Tully girls,
and it made him sick. And it literally was fun for them, and it made him sick. Yes. So
yes,
that's why, ladies, that man is not your friend, though. Like,
good job.
I don't think he self-consciously. I don't think he self-consciously is like, "Fuck Cat, I'm gonna hurt Cat." Not at this point. But I think in the back of his mind, like that's why he enjoys so much having this power over Sansa now.
Right.
I think
their shit back.
And
he's a victim of the feudal system, like just getting shit on, right?
And this is why Littlefinger's the one that sent that cat's paw. And that's why he said he wasn't trying to kill Cat, but if she was there, I think he would have went about his life like, oh well, mistakes happen.
He's a cold-hearted person. Yeah.
I mean, his goal was
in monster skin.
Yeah.
As Pycelle said. Man in monster skin.
Okay.
Brandon, you already mentioned the parallels between Roderick Cassell
Well, not yet.
Peter Baelish and
No, go ahead.
I'll let you
I don't know those.
I'll let you do that.
All right.
You want me to or you?
I wanted to make. No, I want you to do it. But the only point I wanted to make before you get into that, because they're great parallels, they're really solid. The only point I wanted to make is that I'm mad at Kat. I get that she wanted a distraction. She did not want her and Tyrion and her party to be caught. My issue is that she didn't then put Winterfell pretty much in danger, because the Lannisters and their men, of course, are going to want to head towards that way to claim Tyrion. And she left them with no defense. Like, she was already supposed to go home to Winterfell to prepare them for war. She didn't. And then she brings heat upon them without them knowing anything. She doesn't send a raven. She doesn't ask Masha Heddle from the inn, hey, is there a bird I can send north? Anything to warn them. She just sends heat their way, and then she's off to the Vale and still doesn't send a damn raven to Winterfell to warn anyone that a war is coming.
She should have sent a raven over there to her daddy and had somebody meet them on the road and take them to River Run. Duh.
Hi.
She thought about it.
There.
She thought about it.
You would do it. Don't
I
just
think
you do it.
But I think what she wanted, she thought Lysa was going to help her. I don't think what I kind of as like she completely owns Tyrion in this chapter, but then Tyrion completely owns her in the Vale. Like just making a mockery of this like big old spectacle. Like, we're gonna draw upon this obligation and this honor, and like Liza on the show was like, that man did not die. something about honor, and Bran is like, he had honor. He's dead.
You did not fight with honor.
You didn't fight with. He's like, well, fuck it, I'm alive.
So. You did not fight with honor, sir. And Bran points to Sir, what? I
can't remember. He was trying to
name.
He just wanted her lands. No, he died earlier, but a different one. Like
he was like, well, he did. And this is after he has basically whooped him and pushed him out the moon door. Gosh, I know that fool's name, Sir Vargas, isn't it?
I don't remember.
Vargas.
Sir Vargas. Sir Vargas, one of Lysa's suitors.
So, to talk about sinners.
Go ahead, Bran.
Well, Bran.
Go ahead, Bran.
Oh crap! What was that?
Parallels. Right?
Cassell and
I know there was something I was going to step back to. The memories. The whole memory thing. I think the whole reason it's focusing on memory so much through this chapter is because it's that opposite parallel to Stoneheart. I mean, once a character dies, their memories fade. We know Lady Stoneheart's set on one goal and one goal only, and that's kill Lannisters.
Vengeance.
I think it highlights the memories to show that she is alive. That she hasn't turned into the Stoneheart character yet. That's why it focuses on the characters. But one of the main memories that stuck out to me was we're talking about the mountain clans, the way they attack, and then they even say they melt away like snow. I mean, it's a very other-esque parallel.
Absolutely,
but I also realized that it's also a parallel between like First Men and Andals, and then the Targaryens and the Dornish. The Dornish did the guerrilla warfare too against the Targaryens, who were dragon riders, and the Arryns are supposed to be falcon riders. And it's like the Andals and the Targaryens parallel the first, and then Dornish are first men. They came across the land bridge and just said, "Hey, I'm going to stay in Dorne instead of going on north."
Right.
So it's the parallels there. I noticed
the wildlings. The wildlings, I think, claim descent from the same place that the mountain clans do.
No, the wildlings are different. They are? The mountain clans are first men from the Vale, and they were overthrown by the Andals, the Arryns, and they just went to the mountains. And then the wildlings are of northern descent. But the parallel Agirlis is talking about is we see Roderick and Caitlyn in the end saying, okay, I'm going to be your father. You will pretend that, and that's the exact same scenario that's going on with Baelish and Sansa. You see, but we see it's an opposite parallel as well. Baelish controls the situation. Sansa's messing up, trying to screw it up, and you see Roderick that has no idea how to be involved in espionage. He screws up over and over.
I feel like Kat. It's like, what did they say about? Was it Fred Astaire? So what was the dancer who did everything that the other guy did but backwards? Like Kat has to go through this mission and then let Cassell thinking he's in charge of her safety. It's her job to make him feel like a gentleman the whole time. He's sick the whole way down. That's where he loses his whiskers. He loses his masculinity. Like, sorry, if we were going to talk about hair, facial hair being cut off, like they do that to Pycelle as a way to shame him. So he's always grabbing for his wisdom. His wisdom's gone because he was barfing in it. Like, and she's just like, okay, Cassell, maybe we shouldn't say my lady. And he's like, okay, my lady. And she's like, damn it.
Like my daughter. And
my daughter.
It's Baelish and it's Sansa. It's Baelish and Sansa, but in opposite parallels.
I don't blame her for being like, you're going to help me, and you're going to help me, and you're going to help me, and you're going to help me, because this is a crucial situation right now. And we can all talk about how it messed everything up. But like, she was in a high stakes situation.
I don't think she done anything wrong in this situation.
Embarrassed.
She done everything she was supposed to.
What else was she supposed to do? Just kind of ignore him? I mean, she thought. I mean,
she tried.
Yeah,
she didn't want to.
Thought somebody killed her son, and one Lannister, whichever Lannister, blood is blood, I guess, in her eyes.
And she
was just so angry.
She really believed Baelish, and that's where she fucked up. If she would have stopped and critically thought, she would have known Tyrion was out on the hunt with Robert and Ned and everybody. Tyrion couldn't have done it, but she was too hung up on her friend telling her this is how it went, and so.
Yeah. I think she also thought she could trust her sister. Like, I think she got that note from her sister in their secret language that says, Robert Aaron didn't die of Robert Aaron, excuse my language. John Aaron didn't die of natural causes. I think it was the Lannisters and whatever secret, I'm not quoting it correctly, I'm sure, but in her secret, so in Kat's mind, Cersei killed John Aaron, and she thinks that Bran got pushed from Jaime because Jaime wasn't on the hunt, and it's based on something that he might have heard or saw. Like, she thought her sister, I think, was going to help her, I thought, but not, he made a bigger spectacle of it. And I'll turn my mic off. Yeah.
No, I was just adding to that, thinking, but I'm just surprised that they were sisters for a while before they got married and separated, I think. And maybe that kind of state of mind kind of shows itself before. It's not like, it happens where, you had your sister, you don't see each other for 10 years, and one of them turns out not, all there. But I always thought that there's some signs of instability. So I don't know, maybe Kat is really trusting. Maybe that's why.
I think really an example of this from history, actually. When Catherine of Aragon was still the Princess of Wales under the care of Henry Tudor, her sister and her husband Charles actually got boat wrecked, and Juana of Castile, who was known to be crazy, though some say it was rumor, some have different accounts. They say she wouldn't bury her husband, and this is true. This is like, people saw this, like, she would never let anybody bury her husband. And I just wanted to throw that in there because we know that George has stated this is loosely based on the War of the Roses. And he has taken a lot of this from history and, turned it into fiction or whatever. But that's very interesting. But same situation. Catherine of Aragon, was sent to marry Arthur Tudor at like 13 years old. She hadn't seen her sisters. She was around the same age and went off to marry, I believe, he was from Austria, if I'm not mistaken. So they hadn't seen each other in, 10, 15 years. And she didn't know what to believe going into it. According to different biographies I've read, she didn't know whether it was rumor, whether he was just trying to take the throne. Because let's remember, at this time, Castile and Aragon, that was Spain's most powerful country in the world. So anyway, just a bit of history. Y'all know I love that stuff.
Without history, he wrote it based on all kinds of history mixed with his imagination, right?
Right.
It's not like he came up with it, but somebody to put it all together, obviously genius.
Right.
But
there's a lot more history than people realize going on.
Oh yeah. It's just nicely put into this scrapbook. That's 5 or 6 or whatever number of books long, right? An amazing work of art, basically. Yeah,
right.
I love it.
And to the point with Lysa, I love the history, but also we don't exactly know what drove her mad or crazy or off. We don't know. I have all kinds of theories that I love to dive into. I personally think that the Maesters are responsible for a lot of these women.
You mean like drugging her or something?
Yes, I think that the Maesters, because
they're drugging her kid. They're drugging her kid.
That's the first thing we hear about the Maesters, is that they know their poisons. That's the first thing that we hear. And then we get all these slew of poisons that have to come into play and they have to mean something. I think that the Targaryen women were given moon tea and they were kept infertile. And I think the Lysa may have been poisoned along with her son. Is a control mechanism.
I think it's certainly a possibility. I'm sorry.
No. I thank you.
I think that's 100% a possibility, and I didn't even think about it at this time. But especially the way you're saying about the Targaryens, because right now I'm reading about the Ptolemies, and we all know they married brother and sister. Now you hear about deformities, but as far as somebody just being infertile, not really a whole lot of that. Not really a whole lot of that.
Agreed. Absolutely. Infertility is a different issue altogether when it comes to incest. You do get the deformities, but people are still able to reproduce. And with this specific situation, I think that Lysa has a very strong political pull over there in the Vale, as of course, well as Jon Arryn. And also, I think that there's a strong potential for magic between Jon Arryn and Lysa mating, because you have Falcon riders and then you have Daniel Lawson, who was a bat rider. So you have a huge potential for either a skin changer or a warg. And I think they're trying to avoid people having strong magical powers. That's just my assessment. I'm a weirdo.
A good kind of weirdo, if that's what you call weirdo. No, wow, that's the first, I've never heard about it before. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Oh my gosh.
Huh. Well, you know, we learned from the very beginning that they're pretty much opposed to magic and, excuse me, good pizza, dragons. And I honestly believe they are the reason the Hightowers there's a big change in the Hightowers too. If you look at the first three kings of the Hightowers, you got Uthor, Uragon, and Paramore. And those are all reminiscent of Ironborn names. And then their names changed to Otho and Leowyn, and I think Ironborn were Hightowers at one point.
There is a very strong possibility, because George does name his region names quite succinctly. They align pretty well, especially in the North. The North is annoyingly simple, but yeah, I think that there is something to that, Bran. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yes.
I noticed.
My headphones.
Sorry. I heard it somewhere. Maybe there was a different stream or somewhere else where you're supposed to name your characters. And please help me if you know what I'm talking about.
I think I told you that.
Yeah,
one for each letter of the alphabet.
Exactly. So I was just surprised that George would kind of mix a couple people up, where I was like, okay, who's he talking about now? I mean, I knew who he meant, but there are a couple not only starting with the same, at least sounding the same, but they completely almost sound the same.
Well, he did that on purpose. I mean, he looked at it, what he had. He knew he was going to have over 26 characters.
Yeah.
So why not follow history and, name in honor of.
Yeah.
And that's
homage.
Yeah.
I mean, he just took from history. Edward and Richard.
Yeah, those
English
powerful
history.
names, exactly. Yeah, the only thing missing was Thomas for me when I was looking into it. I was like, where is there any Thomas? Or maybe there is, I just didn't remember that. When you were talking about how he makes everything perfectly, he plans everything so well. I got a note here. I forgot. I guess I forgot about it, but now I see it. When they spoke about the pies at the end, I don't know if you caught it too. You probably did. It said the pies made her smile a bloody horror. So when I thought about it, and for a second, it just made me think, okay, they're eating pies. But then I'm thinking, wait a minute, pies.
Pies.
Exactly. Frey pies or Frey people made her smile.
That's
nice catch.
Well, I want to know about this bloody smile. I've been stewing over this bloody smile and how it is going to play in as a foreshadowing, as a homage, whatever it is. This innkeeper and her bloody smile. I want your thoughts on it, because
She's
go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just thought it was, I didn't take it to be like, ooh, all right, let me back up. The next book where all the people get all, she's hanging, and there's a Brienne or Jamie, I can't remember, when they're walking through the Riverlands with Cleos Frey, they see a skeleton with red teeth, and it's like everyone that went through there is gone now, and that's where the Brotherhood Without Banners comes in. You know what I mean? It's like Kat knew she wasn't safe in the Riverlands without things happening. But that like Tyrion probably had 20 people with him. She had Sir Roger Cassel.
Right.
And she's the high lady, highborn lady trying to go about business.
Armored in loyalty.
Well,
exactly.
it didn't work out well for any of them, but we wouldn't have a story if it did.
Yeah,
technically it did. I mean, they took Tyrion and they were able to do what they wanted to do. Lysa fucked it up. If Lysa wouldn't have been so dead set on fucking having that trial right then,
and she was
Catelyn
also
had it all taken care of.
She was looking to let Sweet Robin just like, oh yeah, sure, make him fly. Like, what the fuck? Like, that's a dangerous family. What are you talking about?
That is a lot.
Listen, y'all, Moni G says, stewing? Bran, really? Stewing? Ew.
Stewing.
You use the adjective a while ago. You're like, oh, I've been stewing in that bloody smile. I've been stewing in it.
Oh. So back to the bloody smile, though, Bran. What we do know is that a lot of people are eating blood. There's a lot of blood magic going on. So her bloody smile makes me think of blood consumption.
So I don't think there's a lot of actual blood eating or cannibalizing. I think most of the cannibalism that we hear about is a form of warging or skin changing, and then then feasting on flesh and becoming an abomination.
King's Landing,
she's right there, close to the God's Eye.
King's Landing is just about getting rid of a body. There's no blood magic there. In King's Landing, sorry, I just had to shout that out. All right.
Yeah, we're still at the end though, close to the
God's
Eye,
yes.
where there is a notable amount of magic going on. So her bloody smile does remind me of blood consumption and then blood magic. Not to say that she is one, but we never know.
The only thing I can really equate it to is, go ahead.
No, just everything happens there. Like the end is incredibly pivotal to the story. Everyone arrives there at some point. Everyone, everyone has an interaction there.
It's actually called Crossroads. So
and at the crossroads,
was here, here or there. We have Arya later on debating where to go. She went this way instead of that way. Everything happens, and apparently they have the best pies, right?
Yeah, there's something to that, Aggie, because we all know that at the crossroads, Robert Johnson sold his soul to the devil to be able to be a famous.
Wait, what?
Robert Johnson sold his soul to the devil to be able to be a famous guitar player.
There's 2 albums and disappear.
Yeah, and it's a very famous Eric Clapton song, but Crossroads in like in witchcraft, if you want to F with somebody, you want to put some juju on somebody.
Okay.
Maybe get a it's called a not a voodoo doll. Some people call it that, but maybe get a possession of theirs or whatever. You could do some things, and bury it at a crossroads. That would be that's something that is supposedly confuses the spirits, the gods, the powers, etc. That's just some folklore. She might not even be a full-fledged witch, but how really kind of when you're a country person, like you're a hillbilly or something, whatever you are, you're a country person, you might put a knife under the bed to cut the pain. It doesn't make you crazy. It doesn't mean you're a witch. It just means maybe you're a little bit superstitious and you do certain things, and maybe they really do something, and maybe they don't really do anything, but it's just been passed down as something that you would do.
I will say this, that she is a woman in feudalism, and she's doing quite well at her end. She is undisturbed, and as far as we know, she is unraped. So she could very well be a witch and doing some kind of magic. We don't know, but I do find it very interesting.
That Ian is definitely...
Well, I think I'm going to go ahead and say, I think the Field of Fire 2.0 will happen right here.
In the Riverlands?
At the end?
At the end. At the end.
Yes.
I think we'll have a Field of Fire 2.0.
Yes.
I guess I just always
From
thought...
From there to the neck.
Okay, Bubba Husky makes a good point, and this is 100% true. Back in the day, if you killed yourself or died out of what your priest or the parish would deem out of God's grace, you could not be buried on consecrated ground. And more specifically, if they wanted to damn you, you would be buried at the crossroads, say a suicide or something like that. Not only could you not be allowed to be buried on some farmland of your families or in the consecrated church ground, but then they would also go a step further, bury you at a crossroads so that you would, in supposedly in the middle place or whatever, purgatory, whatever you want to call it, not your spirit not be able to find its way to anyone you hadn't ever known or any place you had ever known, as kind of another worldly punishment, if you will. But definitely in this society, we've got these superstitions such as this.
Yes.
Yeah.
If nothing more.
So yeah, I just wanted to mention that, you know, he named it properly, and apparently that's the only inn, or if I don't know, I don't remember if there are any other major inns, but everything happens over there.
There's a whole companion cookbook called, I think it's titled Inn at the Crossroads. There's a blog, like a food blog. Like he's so into describing food, and some people hate it, some people whatever. I like it, and then of course you like can geek out to a next level when they like tell you how to like make recipes of things that are in there, and it's a, if you're into cooking or whatever, it's a good book.
I wonder if they have recipes of what's his face.
Fried pie.
No, I don't want to eat that one. I mean the good pies. What's his name? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, hot pie. Yeah, it's really good. Like
yeah, gravy. I need a recipe for that.
Yes, well, he carries on about gravy a lot in the show. I don't remember that a lot.
See, look, but I'm gonna tell you something. I cook really well. I cook Southern food. I can twirl out some cornbread, a biscuit, a pancake in a minute. But I always have a bit of trouble with a roux. It's hard to get that flour not to. Y'all know what I'm talking about? You got to whisk, honey. You got to whisk.
Try not using flour, but cornstarch.
Okay.
A little bit of flour.
Thank you.
That does not make it. It's a cooking channel right now.
I was gonna say, you know, where I have to make slime. Like I have to make, my kids want, or like they don't ask for biscuits. They're like, all the kids in my school make slime. Can we make slime?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
It's
okay,
it's a thing.
Let's make slime. All right. But if you think of the Inn at the Crossroads, also, like, I don't know any of the like history of the magic. I've got big blind spots when it comes to that coming into play. So forgive me, but I like learning what goes down at the Inn of the Crossroads in Game of Thrones when we know what happens in the next book, and the next book, and the next book. Like I can't remember. I don't always necessarily know what happens in what book, but I know that Jaime and Brienne through the Riverlands and the Inn of the Crossroad, there were Lannister. They were just the small folk were all strung up. They laid with lions. Like it was like the North was going around like messing with people too. I don't know. Just think of them as yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
That has happened. That happens in war. Like, even if you don't get hung, but I think there's, you know, as early as definitely World War II, if you slept with, if you were a collaborator, if you slept with the Germans, or if you slept with, over there in, you see, there's some cases of it in Greece where a Greek woman slept with the Italians when they were occupying the Greek islands. Also in Vietnam. If you had a half white child and, you know, treated very badly. So, yeah, you know, a lot of people who stick to the old ways and the old values of the country, like, they don't like that. And, you know, just many of the ways that we see prejudice happen. But, and during World War II, also in France, you know, I think that was one of the maybe. Anyway, yeah, you would get treated badly if you're a woman who slept with an occupying army, for sure. And if you're going to leave, you better leave with them, because you are not safe left behind from where you are, basically. And there's many examples of that. We could
have a good night, Bubba.
Every war in history,
good night,
probably there's a case of some woman being mistreated because she fell in love with the wrong person or slept with the wrong person.
Camp follower is what they call them, right? Camp follower is born.
Yeah, well, that's a woman who follows around where like she almost goes on campaign with the army. Like she goes wherever they go.
She's not
allowed in, right? Because they're not allowed in. Maybe, I don't know. Like
I mean, I imagine if you have the coin, you know, unless it's a really, do y'all think the inn at the crossroads was a super classy establishment?
Isn't that where
it's the only one? Probably the only one.
It's the only one. It's like Moat Caitlyn. It's just so strategically perfect for shit to go down.
What I think is it probably depends on how busy they were and who was there and how much money was being passed around, as still is probably the truth today in many things, you know. So, because notice when Caitlyn and Roderick arrive there, she doesn't have any rooms left except for probably the two worst rooms, which are right underneath that bell. Does anybody have anything, speaking of, does anybody have anything about the bell, the fact that they sleep under this bell, and bells usually ring for the most awful things or for weddings? Okay.
Well, they ring the bell in King's Landing every hour when somebody dies, when a king dies.
I thought Battle of the Bells was in the Riverlands.
Yeah.
I thought of that one. Like the churches were using the bells to help hide all the they were hiding the Baratheon, Robert Baratheon, but isn't that where John Con lost the Battle of the Bells?
Yeah.
So he can't hear bells and not like obsess over his failure that one day. Anyway.
Okay, Bloodware Blogging says, let me just say this, sorry, and then you go ahead. Bloodware Blogging says, doesn't the camp follower talk remind you of, he says, Glenn, is that correct though? Was that his first name, Glendon Ball? And I think he's talking about from the Duncan Egg novel, the Mystery Night?
Quentin Ball, yeah.
Quentin, yeah, I thought it was
his dad was Fireball and no one would believe him, but he was actually really good at his job and believed in
right. And I think the point is his mother was supposedly a camp follower at one time too. Y'all, excuse me for just a second. The reason I kept stepping away is because a coyote, we live right here against the river, the Mississippi River. A coyote was spotted in a field behind our backyard earlier, and I'm just trying to get my cats in because it makes me nervous. They'd be a tasty little treat for a coyote.
Oh my gosh, we have those here too. I live it's a bigger neighborhood, but we are kind of near some fields, and we have lovely coyotes here. Yeah, especially in the cold winter. That's fun.
Yeah.
We don't have that where I am. There's all kinds of other weird animals, but not coyotes.
Yeah.
They have
the strangest. They have the strangest.
They laugh almost. It's almost like
it's like children. It's like children. It's very weird. The first night I heard them.
Cackle.
Yeah. It's odd. I had no idea what that was, and that was obviously summer. The windows were open, and I was freaked out. I had never heard one before. Now I know.
It sounds like there's something out there that sounds like a child screaming, and then I'm pretty sure it's not a child. I don't know what animal it is. I just don't go out there.
No, it's weird.
Let's hope not.
It's a shadow cat.
Yep, alligators. Plenty of alligators down here.
A shadow cat in the Vale.
I had a picture of one I could send.
Yeah, Bran, I could not handle the reptile life of California. Of Florida, because I don't know. Like I love reading about dragons. I'm scared of a garden snake. I can't do reptiles. They scare the shit out of me.
Run, I heard they can run.
I'll send you the picture of the little pygmy rattler I caught the other day. Oh well, it's been a little while since I caught it.
Yeah.
I got its fangs all out and stuff. It was pretty neat. I shouldn't have been drunk doing it, but.
You are straight of all trades, good sir.
But you made it here, so all good. Oh my gosh.
Yes, thank you for not dying.
Yeah.
Straight of all trades. Thank you for not dying. Don't mess with venomous animals, man.
I love snakes. I love snakes.
You mean with stalks?
I will
go
catch
with them.
any snake before somebody kills it. I don't get pissed when people kill snakes.
Oh.
All right.
Okay, there's my rant. That's my rant.
Russell likes to eat them. I don't know if it's something manly or like. Whoa,
that's what I said. Like, do you prefer them to play with them or to put salt on them?
Russell likes them both. Like he grew up, his mom kind of being the I love my mother-in-law. She is very much into knowing, teaching the boys which snakes were venomous. which, you know, whatever, she's very good at it. But I don't know any other mother who'd be like, go look under those boards over there. Go look in that abandoned tire. Good Lord. I woke up one morning, there's this water moccasin, definitely super poisonous, long snake, come up here to my neighbor's porch. And, you know, me, I'm like,
Give me a stick, I'll catch it.
Oh my God.
somebody from down the street, because we don't like to kill them because, you know, like I said, there's a field behind our house. Snakes are great.
They keep like mice and stuff
Absolutely.
you don't want
I
around.
prefer mice, but okay.
Absolutely, but you know, every creature
Mice carry
in the sun
disease.
serves the purpose.
Oh, true, yeah.
That's how the plague was spread back in the
Yeah,
day.
I don't want mice. I don't want mice or snakes. Can I have neither?
Neither is better. Neither is fine. Neither is great.
Oh my God.
Yeah, none of the above. No pets. No pets. None.
All
I'm cool
right,
with that.
guys, where are you guys at?
I'm looking at my notes here, and I kind of
Animals.
speaking of animals, actually, I have a couple quotes here. I wanted to know, not quotes, but kind of semi-quotes. I wanted to get your opinion on them. So let's see. The first one, it says Starks, no music, but howling of wolves. Then I have the sound of 12 swords drawn as one. And then, but it was Bran she saw choking, drowning on his own blood. So I wanted your opinion on those. What do you think? Like, I don't know where you want to start. Like,
Well,
what was the first one again?
The first one, the howling.
Yeah.
The howling I caught is because Roderick tells Barillion he doesn't want to hear him howling. He's giving away where he's from. He's telling him he's from the north. You know, howling is immediately associated with wolves, which dire wolves, which is immediately that's his lack of ability to stay hidden. That's him telling on himself like Sansa tells on herself.
All right.
Exactly.
I'm going to be bossy. I'm going to jump in. I highlighted that too. All right. His opinion of singers was well known. Music was a lovely thing for girls, but he could not comprehend why any healthy boy would fill his hand with a harp when he might have had a sword. And I'm like, gender role, what? And then also like, did George R. R. Martin decide that Rhaegar was a musician at this point? Like,
he had a plan, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Right. Specifically, it's a harp.
It might not have been mentioned, but I'm sure he had that already planned.
Like, somehow Rhaegar managed to not, well, he got killed on the battlefield, not playing the harp. Brilliant.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah, he wasn't just a singer. He read the prophecy and he became a warrior and a top tier warrior.
Yeah. I mean, he was good at both, and he preferred playing, right? I think, but
I feel like he was into showmanship because he died. You know what I mean? Like he was.
They just used it to be a whore.
Well, yeah. See, this is where things
I'm with you there.
Degenerate. Yeah. Like I think he was really good at being like the prince that was promised, but then it became time to win a war, and he wasn't. That was not his thing.
He was really good at convincing women to sleep with him. Is what he was good at.
I mean, I don't want to be stereotypical here, but don't we all know that guy in a band who, you know what I'm saying? Is
right.
Like you mentioned, he was good with music, he was good with his harp, and then he was good with his sword. Yeah.
Sword. His bloody sword.
Right.
Yeah. Oh.
Right.
He was good at everything, so hey.
Well,
Good
we
with
know
a
what
sword.
that's an adjective for.
And the women would weep at his lyrics, like his like whatever he would sing too, and so
because he learned from the Ghost of High Heart at Summerhall.
Well,
he learned the secrets of song. I mean, they are the singers of the earth. They can sing in ways we don't understand. He learned from the Ghost of High Heart. That's where because he had it in his mind. He is going to create this promised prince. That's why he was a whore. He wanted to he was pushing the prophecy. Sorry.
He was when he said there was something about him trying to learn how to fight because not because he wanted it, originally, but he was doing it because it said that he would.
He read a prophecy.
He read a prophecy,
and it didn't happen. He took action. He didn't just wait.
He surprised everyone. I think he went to the armorer, was like, "I need armor. It seems I'm to be a warrior now."
Yeah.
Like that.
And to your point, Bran, both the other scenes we know about, which are Rast, the raper, who we find out wasn't a raper. There was a naked High Lord's daughter.
Wasn't Rast, it was Dorian.
I'm sorry, yes.
Dorian.
Thank you. Dorian the singer, we know of him, and
he paralleled Rhaegar.
Yeah, and yes, Marillion, we know of him, and he is promiscuous. He is a singer who also loves young girls. So
and he's got Liza wrapped around his finger.
In short time, because he wasn't from the Vale. We learned that he just traveled up there. So he is a seducer. He is a ladies' man.
But can we just say, like, every queen or noble lady they try and throw shade at, they were like, she was just a little too friendly with her singers or her jugglers or whatever. Like, maybe they're just friends sometimes. I don't know.
With that whole music and melody, there were a couple stories, legends. I don't remember them exactly, but there was something about, was it rats and something that a player of whatever instrument, he got the rats out of the city by playing, so they followed him.
The Pied Piper.
Yeah, there are different versions of.
But that was actually the children. The myth is based on taking the children, not the rats.
I mean, because they didn't pay him, right? Because they didn't pay him or whatever. That's why he was originally hired to get rid of the rats. He did. They never paid him, so he took the children away by, playing the thing, and the children followed him out. So that's kind of reminding me again of him and his harp or whatever he was playing, that he was able to make women cry, weep from whatever. It's like, magic type of thing. Not magic, but everything seems to be around magic over there.
Yeah, definitely. Uh-oh.
We lost.
We did lose two.
Two, yeah.
I'm not sure what happened. They texted me what happened. I'm not sure. I didn't do anything. See if you guys can rejoin the call.
Okay.
It's still going on. Y'all should be able to pop back in.
Yeah. Okay.
Am I here?
So you're here.
Oh, it's okay, guys. I'm back. No one's worried about me, bitch.
You were here. You were here all the time, so you're good. Yeah, we lost two. Oh.
Yeah, we're worried about the other people, not you.
Okay. Oh wait, is she gone? Oh my God,
he's texting me right now.
Do you guys, while we're waiting, off the top of your head, can you name the 3 houses that she calls upon in the inn? No. I feel like that's like, if you're a trivia person, I feel like those are three names you're supposed to know.
I have no clue. Names, no.
I'm gonna guess. And listen, I read it. I didn't read it with my eyes. I listened to it, so I'm probably not gonna remember it. But I think she calls on. She sees a Mallister on the road.
Can I answer?
You know the answer?
Blackwoods, Frays.
Yeah.
Brackens.
No.
Frays.
Blackwood, Frays.
And
Blackwood. What was the one with the bat? Yeah, okay.
The Wentz.
Oh, no, yeah, it is.
The Wentz.
It's Harrenhal. The Wentz from Harrenhal, yeah. Wentz from Harrenhal, the Brackens.
There. Yeah, well, whatever.
And
we'll check in next time and talk about it. But yeah, I don't know.
100% right.
But she's got such a sense of the history that she can call on all those people. I feel like there's something to be said for that.
Well, they're all from the Riverlands. She knows their sigils. I mean, she knows who they are.
Not only that, Manisa Went was her grandmother. So she should know that. But yeah, they're all from the Riverlands. And, she makes a big show. And that's why I say she gets very grandiose. And we hear many times how there's always needs to be a Stark at Winterfell. Starks do best in the North. This is their place. I think that we can, a lot of people say, is there something to that? Or is it just, well, I do think there's something to a Stark being at Winterfell at all times because I believe there's magic warded in it.
It's the curse.
I believe just like for anybody. I know I get past Hammond, the smell changes. The temperature drops 10 degrees. I know I'm in Mississippi. I know I'm almost home. And I love the way it feels. And the same thing as Caitlyn. It smells different than here. It is different. I feel safe. Where I grew up now is not necessarily a great area anymore, but being that I went to school over there, that whatever, I would probably boldly do whatever I wanted to do in South Jackson, Mississippi.
I lived in Hammond.
I go through, that's how I get home. I go up to Slidell, you know what I mean, and go over to Hammond and then hit 55 South.
I grew up, I spent a year up in Epps, Tallulah, and Delhi.
So I'm just glad to see some symbolism for somebody else, that, there is something to being a Stark and being in Winterfell because their spells warded. But then, too, everybody's comfortable where they grew up as a child and everybody knows you. And the same people have been. Like, she knows the innkeeper, Masha. She knows about the honey. She's just very comfortable. And I think this very much emboldens her. If they would have been at any other end in Westeros, I don't know that she would have felt as comfortable if Tyrion had walked in and she had not been able to call on everybody and all of that like she did. If they had been in King's Landing, definitely not, So
yeah, with that, later on it talks about, I think, either Bran, where he remembers how his father kept calling all his bannermen for the feast, where the hall wouldn't fit everybody, but they kept switching back and forth to make sure that there's always somebody at the table to know all the faces. So while, I'm wondering if her father was doing something similar to make sure that she as the lady would know everybody who belonged to her house.
I don't believe so. Hoster was a douche. I think Hoster was a total douche. I think he was...
Well, I think
he planned like meticulously. I don't think he would have been in.
I think he was really mean to Liza, but I think he let Cat in on his plans. I think he let Cat politic with him. He raised Cat to be heir, Edmure's heir, but he raised Cat to be. He married her off. No, you would disagree.
Yeah,
he got married off like a cow.
Exactly. He would not have been in it. In Robert's Rebellion, unless Jon and Ned agreed to marry those two. I wholeheartedly believe that. I don't think he would have partook.
Family, duty, honor. You're in the Riverlands, you're in a very vulnerable situation, as we've talked about.
He's putting his family in a better position.
Well, and he's also buying the protection of the Baratheons and the Starks.
They very well could have lost.
What?
That nobody knew. Yeah. Nobody knew they were going to win.
At that point, it was very unknown, right? Because it was.
They were on the losing side at that point.
And they're also the people what's going on? I'm sorry. There was people who fought for Aerys in the Riverlands, House Derry, and there was other people who they didn't go with Hoster Tully. They stuck with their king. Yeah. And because remember when they're on the King's Road and Tyrion and Jaime find those tapestries or whatever that they had just obviously taken down. They're actually looking forward to Targaryen rule coming back. And they would all have oh, sorry, Bran, you, and I cut you off. I'm so sorry, Bran. What were you saying before I started carrying on about all that?
Oh, I was just saying that Hoster was a total douche. I mean, he wouldn't have been involved. He wouldn't have been involved unless Jon Arryn and Ned agreed to marry those two. I'm not big on the Ned and Ashara thing, but I think Ned had eyes for her and wanted to try to go that route. But then Brandon died, and he was forced to marry Cat. I don't think he wanted to. I don't think that wasn't in his cards at all. I think Hoster said, look, you're either going to do this or I'm fighting for Aerys.
Right. I agree. I think that I don't think he maybe even 100% knew what he would do, but I think he saw some leverage there and took it to put both of his daughters in a really good position and in his mind, after something kind of that might have would have in any other circumstance, probably, because Peter Baelish probably would have married Lysa. Let's just agree that he probably would have if Hoster, and it would have been a natural thing even for a younger daughter to kind of, nobody would want that for her to marry a little bit lower, but nobody would think it quite so odd.
I think in the Vale, they are uptight as hell about that kind of thing. They
are in the Vale, but they're not actually in the Vale. And, we don't know this great favor that Peter Baelish's dad did to even get to have him fostered there. You know what I mean? It must have been something.
He proved himself at the Stepstones, right?
Yeah. So, did he save his life or did he do something? But, it was something that he considered a personal debt of honor to do that, because they were far, far beneath them on a social scale. So, and then, I don't know I think that's the TV show we get it when Lady Olenna is like, well, you've never had two young people. And even though she was talking particularly about Loras or whatever, that could go for any children raised together that would have a natural affection for each other because they're familiar with each other, whatever. So I don't think it would have been an out of the way thing. But instead of doing that, he didn't care about his daughter's happiness. I think that proves that right there. And he was very determined to have them placed very high, or at least of an equal level, as had always been their status.
I guess even Asha Greyjoy wasn't allowed to fool around with somebody lower born than her. When she got busted for that, he got sent away, and that's they're badasses over there.
Botley.
Christopher Botley, yeah, and then she's got to listen to him carry on about how he's in love with her. She's like, I haven't seen you in 10 years.
At first crush.
Being a lady in Westeros, and when people want your land, people want your army, it's obviously, I think, hard being a small folk who ends up strung up in a feast for crows with red teeth. The poor innkeep is feeding crows in a few books, but
speaking of that, I kept I kind of know the other ones that was my first quote. I have no clue what the 12 swords would mean. The quote that I gave. Is it the others or the?
I immediately saw a Last Hero parallel. I mean, the 12 companions got the last hero, Tyrion being the, and then it made me wonder, did basically his companions die and then be raised again to fight against him? And I don't know, that's the way it hit me as the 12 companions, the last hero. Technically, you got a wolf there too, you got Caitlyn, who is a Stark.
Okay.
But that's just where I saw it.
The way I was thinking about it, but again, this is different from books versus the show. I don't think it applies to the books, at least at this point, because we don't know much about the others. That's how they're called, I guess, in the book. It says 12 swords drawn as one. So my thought was that in the show we have 12, White Walkers, right? Kind of 12 looking at the picture. And
by show standards.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying, by show standards. So I'm not sure. It's mentioned in the book, and I wonder if it's ever going to be mentioned later on, because according to the book, it's not 12. It should be more, based on this Craster's sons. If we actually are going to go that route, that they are the ones, the others. So I was just wondering, if it's not the others, like you said, Brian, you said that it's about the last hero. I wonder if there's any other 12 that kind of, because there's a 3, there's a 7, and I'm wondering if there's any 12 other than that. Do any of you, that number? Because numbers are so important in his book. So I'm trying to think about if there's anything 12, either on a show
I got nothing.
I got nothing either, but
I'm not gonna.
Bloodwort Blogging wants to know, Bran, this will be for you because I'm not super familiar with but a couple of the tales. Maybe Ellen, any of y'all might know this. I'm not real certain about it. He says, this running a comparison to the Knights of the Round Table by any chance?
I mean, it could. I mean,
I'm not super familiar with those stories. I know the Gawain story a little.
Gowan?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I know maybe one other story a little bit, but I'm not real familiar.
Oh, yeah.
That, of course, the 12 apostles as well, because you have 12 people following you, 12 people behind you to have your back. So
I think they're all. I mean, they're all parallel in a way of each other as it is. I mean,
the 12 days of Christmas.
The 12 hours, on the clock. Wow.
Yeah, midnight on New Year's Eve.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, yeah. Hey, 1 + 2 = 3, and 3 is supposed to be a magic number.
Oh my gosh. He knew what he was doing, writing that stuff. Our brains are like on right now. I love it.
Right.
I love
he
it.
sends us down so many rabbit holes.
Yeah.
Hey guys, earlier, this is how crazy you get when you're reading these books and you're trying to recognize symbolism and foreshadowing. The carpenter was over here gonna fix our shed out back. And he said, how old is this thing? Russell said, oh, it was built in 70. I'm not gonna name the number, but 2 years earlier than me. And I'm thinking, okay, so does that mean in 2 years, since it's kind of rotting now, so in 2 years I'm going to be completely falling apart? And I'm like, why am I even trying to draw parallels between me and our shed? And the answer is because I was reading this damn chapter all day.
You are more than your shed, Jen.
Yes,
you will outlive that shed.
And then I'm walking out, literally, I go get the mail. I'm still thinking,
you're pressure treated. Don't worry about it.
Right. But I'm thinking, man, that damn George R. Martin, I mean, who sits around like thinking, okay, well, I'm going to tie this. I mean, it's just so brilliant that I'm just like, I guess this is how he lives.
I've been in.
He orders a plate of Mexican and there's, this is like, oh, I ordered 2 enchiladas, but they only brought me 1. That means crazy. Just crazy. Just how you can pretty much run a parallel or say this is symbolism or this is, an omen from anything going on, really, if you look hard enough. And that's what I'm saying. I think we catch a lot of and I think we're right. But I think sometimes if you let yourself, you could maybe make a little bit of something out of nothing is what I'm saying. And it's easy. And so I'm not saying discussions. I'm just saying, I see where in daily life, if you wanted to go around living like that, you could draw a parallel to almost anything going on.
The number 23.
Yeah, I'm sure he's tricky that way because if everything happened that we see foreshadowing for, people would die multiple deaths. I want to live this way. I want to die that way. Okay, I want have my ear chopped off, or my hand. You're gonna lose your tongue, or we want people to die. We want people to lose their tongues because it said so in the book. Because
Cyprian's gonna lose his tongue.
It's a pet theory, so it has to happen on the show. The moment in the episode I demand that it happens in. Yeah, it's tricky.
So that actually scares me. That scares me, obviously, but it's the Bran choking and drowning on his own blood. What do you think about that?
Right. I saw Lady Stoneheart there. Her throat slit, getting thrown. I mean, for one, she would be drowning in her blood anyway. Hold on one second. Okay, but for 2, she was thrown in the river, so she'd be drowning in a river where she's bleeding, bloody river, drowning. I just saw a lot of Stoneheart there.
That's a great catch right there. I didn't catch that. I told Sarah, I said, there's not much to this chapter. Whatever.
Oh, no.
that's completely not true. Well, then when I started doing it, you know what I mean? Because every once in a while you have a chapter, it's just a couple pages, it's not really much. But then when I started doing this, by like the second page, I had 4 pages of notes, and I'm like, "Oh, my arm hurts. My arm hurts." Sarah, you're muted, babe.
What I said was just so smart. You missed it. So much plot happens through Caitlyn, you know, like you can hate her, but like Jamie gets freed in her chapter, you know, like she's got all the good, like stuff happens. Like she busts on Tarly. Stannis and Baratheon, Stannis and Renly's fight is in front of Caitlyn. Like Caitlyn chapters are good.
Right.
I hear there. I'm surprised there's not been hate, but I guess ladies and Bran, we have drawn a crowd that does not feel the need to speak up in this way. But I have heard that.
I don't think she's done wrong.
That Caitlyn acts out of emotion. She didn't have a plan. Like to me, no, that was a calculated risk, and she doesn't let her emotions guide. I mean, like honestly, if her emotions were in charge, she would have just jumped up and strangled Tyrion herself. You know what I mean? Like she was thinking of how to do it. And like another thing is I can't remember. That she left Bran and Rickon. She shouldn't have even left Bran and Rickon. And I'm like, but you've never gone all the way for the weekend. Like, come on, it's not that big of a deal.
Well, I mean,
she could have.
She needed to take that trip. She needed to make that trip,
and it was a calculated risk because it was too important to send some like. You're gonna send Cassell down there with top intelligence. Like I wouldn't do that. I'd take the bandages off my arm and go myself.
Exactly. She needed to do that to get away from what the spiral she was in anyway. She was sitting there just, dying pretty much watching her son. She needed to get out of that setting to grow as a person too, to get out of that depressive state.
She didn't leave thinking she was never going to come back. I mean, like you can't hate her for that. Like she didn't think she was never going to come back. But yeah, I'm going to shut mine off.
She was a Stark. She did become a Stark, and then she had the nerves to take herself beyond the North. So that's what happened when Starks leave the North.
Starks go south. They don't go back north.
Hopefully, John will be.
I heard that.
Hopefully, John will be better because he's only half Stark, right? So he'll come back.
Yeah, he's gonna come back in several different ways.
Yeah,
that John.
Oh Lord.
Whoa! Hold up.
Oh my God.
Are we going somewhere else with that?
We did not go anywhere else with that.
I got to go.
No, we're good, y'all. We're good. I'm just shit, where are we at?
Well, I just had did any of you hear me? I was muted.
Yes.
I just heard you
started
now,
talking
just
and you trailed off. I don't know how.
Yeah.
What happened?
Oh, sorry. Okay.
It could be just to shorten your mic.
Oh, let me just turn it off.
No, it's fine. Yeah. You're fine.
Okay.
All right.
So Aggie, you're saying that she shouldn't have even been down there in the first place?
Yeah. I'm with the crowd of people who I don't believe that she had to be the person to go. I'm sorry. She had a household full of people who were loyal to Ned and to herself. I think that she could have.
So she's going to sit there and die, basically? Sit there and
die?
Wallow?
That's dramatic. I'm sorry.
I think she's uniquely suited to politic in the South. Like, she's more better at it than
anybody in the
I see the point that you're making. I think it's a valid point that she has good politics for the South, but she still went down south with her good politics and made some very life-changing decisions for not just her, but the entire.
She made emotional decisions. She made emotional decisions.
Emotional. I just think they were
impulsive. Okay, I will go with that, but I'm like you, Aggie. I think saying that she had to go is very dramatic. We hear from the Boltons at one of the safest places you can be is behind the walls at Winterfell.
Yeah.
And I think
much.
if she'd have cloistered herself up in Winterfell like Lysa did at the Vale, things would have went very differently.
Yeah, look at Lysa.
Yeah.
Perfect example.
Okay, but
How
Lysa's
often-
a crazy ass.
But
And she is being
so-
manipulated and played by Peter. Her death was always
both of them
calculated.
are getting played by Peter.
And possibly drugs.
Yes, but Kat would not have been if she would have kept her own ass up there where she lived. And
How often
She's a Stark.
does a king visit the North? Is it
Exactly.
like Queen Alysanne or something? Like the kings
200 years ago.
Yeah,
don't
no, you're
come
right,
up there.
you're right.
So that's a big deal. Like
Yes.
it's not that she was like, go find out who killed John Aaron. It was like, well, it's going to look really bad if you refuse your friend who you won the war with. So you should probably go. And I mean, that's how I remember it anyway. I know that's not the chapter we read tonight, but
And you know what? She wanted to
There
go
was
see her
more-
damn husband.
There was more to it than that. She wanted to make sure that Jon Snow left as well. She wanted to make sure
No.
she had a reason to get him the hell out of the house because she did not want his grandchildren or his children.
That's where all the hate
Any
stems from,
pain
right
to
there.
Winterfell.
yeah.
Yes, yes. And so
And-
if she wasn't so gung-ho, so hateful towards John, a lot of the stuff would not have happened. She would not have felt so
I agree with
compelled to do
that.
things.
But she also
And
grew
make
up
Ned
in the
go up to...
Bran.
You know, I mean,
She
You
had
guys-
her southern ambitions still.
It's,
She
I
never
was
let go of
just
her
fixing to
southern
say that,
ambitions.
just like her daddy. Like,
Survival
okay,
skills. I call
she
them
saw an
Southern survival
opportunity
skills.
to get rid of John, and she moved
No.
right on in and took it, just like he saw an
Mm.
opportunity to still marry Lysa well, and he moved
Right.
right on in like a
So-
friend and took it.
Exactly.
John was gone. John was gone. He made the decision. John was gone. If he would have, even if he would have been there, he would have been fighting the fire with Robb. The cat's paw still would have attacked her. I mean, John being there
Okay.
does nothing.
What we're
Does
saying,
nothing.
or what I was saying, is that half the reason she was convincing Ned to go up with Robert in the first place was because she wanted to displace John. I'm not going to let go of that. I simply believe that to be
No,
fact.
I was
She
thinking on that
terrified.
today as well, and thinking about something else. And I was thinking, you know what? He was pretty well left with no choice. He couldn't go.
Yeah, she
with
left
his-
him with no choice.
Mhm. He couldn't stay there because she said, "I don't want you here." And we know Ned wasn't gonna rub.
He had already blown up and said he wanted to go at that point.
Yeah, but
He
he
made
really
the
made
big
up his
fucking
mind.
scene. Made the big fucking scene in the mess hall that in drunk. He
He can
had
make whatever
already
scene he
decided.
wants.
I just see it different. I
Ned
just
was
see it a little
Winterfell.
different.
He could have told him to sit his little bastard ass down.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I mean they
He
didn't have
would have
no-
listened.
they didn't have a repoed hold fast. He
he
could have
would
put
have.
him in. I
Would
mean,
Can I say-
spoken?
Can I say one thing? I will
Yes,
think
please.
about this. I will think about this different moving forward. I will, because I don't hold Kat accountable for how mean she was to John. I don't. I'll work on it, ladies
do.
and gentlemen. Thank you.
I do.
In her
She
defense,
she gets hated on because of Lysa. A lot of
She-
Lysa's decisions she gets blamed for.
well, so
and-
real
yeah.
fast, just to talk
I
about why
disagree.
she hates John. She has like political reason to hate John. I know John was
She
just a
does.
kid. But she has political reason to hate John. She grew up in the Riverlands where like the Blackfires were a thing. You know what I mean? Like the whole Blackwood and then the other one, Bracken, the Bracken.
Brackens.
It's like how much, like when Robb goes to legitimize John, like how much if John's cool, but you don't know about John's kids. But if John's kids could take
Right.
it, and John very
His
much
kids.
looks like Ned more than any of her redheaded kids. Like,
Mhm.
His
I just-
kids would have been the problem.
well,
Not
and it's
him.
like people
Right.
liked. I'm not a big super Blackfire expert, but I know that people liked the bastard more than they liked the whatever one was supposed to have it, and
Right.
the appearance played a
Amen.
role and all that. So I feel like it's not that she like hated a baby. Like it's like when she had to grow up. She did, but I mean,
Mhm.
he also posed a political problem for her and the well-being of her family duty honor.
Right.
You know,
He was jeopardizing the very first word of her house words, the family. So
okay, and I get that completely, except for the fact that there's a difference between acting politically minded and then being a bitch. You can make plans to depose of someone and not treat them horribly as a child. Like,
yeah,
she didn't. She didn't though. She did not. Show me one quote that says she treated John badly. She ignored him. She did not treat him as hers.
The fact that she said that she wished it was him that was in Bran's place.
But John's upset.
The first time she ever said his name was when she was like, I wish that you were laying here, that you were in Bran's place.
Yeah, like if it only had been you. And like John's just upset about his little brother, and she's got this woman being like, I wish you were the one who was like, broke your back.
Okay, put yourself in her position. Right. You got somebody else's kid standing there.
All right, y'all. Let's move on from this. We've gotten stuck. Let's agree to disagree on this whole John situation. But Aggie, I'm with you. And let's take a. Ricky Hunt says, there was one particular point. Well, Bubba Husky says first. She cares about her family in the South, but feels that her children at Winterfell are her duty. And then Ricky Hunt makes a good point. Well, the thing with the Blackfriars is that Daeron was rumored to have been illegitimate. And also, Ricky, that's for another time. I'm not sure what you mean about Bittersteel owns Bloodraven. But I'm sure that's a whole theory. But okay, got y'all. Okay, where are we at now? We got off on a tangent. We need to pull ourselves back in.
So we were talking about how Kat gets a lot of heat for the decisions that she made, and Bran argued the fact that they were actually Lysa's decisions. So Bran, if you would like to take it from there.
I was just saying, like Tyrion, if Caitlyn had no way, it would have been handled correctly. It would have been taken to the north. Ned, the king, everybody would have been involved. But Lysa, in her hysteria, wanted to do what she wanted to come up and do, and she fucked it up. Caitlyn was very calculated in what she was doing, and the people around her fucked it up, and she gets the blame.
The scenario in the Vale, I will completely concur that was Lysa's half crazy ass. The events before that, preceding Kat arriving in the Vale, Kat has to be held responsible for whatever decision she made.
What event did she did wrong?
Taking Tyrion. We just had a disagreement about it, Brand. The very fact that she left Winterfell, the fact that she went to the end, took Tyrion, and did not send any kind of raven to Winterfell to let them know, hey, I'm starting a damn war. Okay. Maybe get some swords.
Good job. Go tell everybody you're starting a war. That's brilliant.
Okay, let's pick it up from here. Caitlyn knew them all, the Blackwoods and the Brackens, ever enemies, whose quarrels her father was obliged to settle. Lady Went, last of her line, who dwelt with her ghost in cavernous vaults of Harrenhal. Irascible Lord Frey, who had outlived 7 wives and filled his twin castles with children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, bastards, and grand-bastards as well. All of them were bannermen to Tully's, their swords sworn to the service of Riverrun. Catelyn wondered if that would be enough, if it came to war. Her father was the staunchest man who'd ever lived, and she had no doubt that he would call his banners. But would the banners come? The Darrys and the Rhaegars and the Mutants had sworn oaths to Riverrun as well, yet they had fought with Rhaegar Targaryen on the Trident, while Lord Frey had arrived with all his levies well after the battle was over, leaving some doubt as to which army he had planned to join. Okay, the Freys would be mirrored after the Stanleys. It was always said that one Stanley brother would hold out a little bit until they saw which way the war was turning.
Right.
And would make sure one was always fighting on either side so that when one lost, the other one could be like, ask the favor for their brother to be pardoned. So
that was a good approach with that. He had so many children. I mean, he was safe everywhere because he had a kin somewhere, right? He had a daughter,
Right.
son, or whoever. It's some family, right?
Yeah,
Many
and that's what
Or
you
tried.
see.
At least he tried.
And that's what you see everybody doing, LMR. That's kind of with these alliances and these marriage pacts or whatever. Like, that's what you see everybody doing, bringing us back to the fact that before love, marriage is very political, and it's about possessions
With the nobles,
titles, and property. And if you're a loving couple in this series, almost always you're doomed.
Oh,
Right?
my God.
The idea that the Targaryens could just like go and have bastards in the Riverlands, like what is it called, right of first night or something, like that it was an honor to be carrying dragon seed. Like they're pretty like. I feel like in addition to marriage being a political like tool, it's also thought to be this like magic thing as well, because the Targaryens thought they were. Cersei says something about Rhaegar being like so beautiful, but he was actually more god than man or some like nonsense. Like, but this idea that they were like somehow genetically different, the Targaryens, you know, and like superior. I feel like I don't know.
They were basically well bred.
and like that is also based on history, I believe.
Blood of the Dragon.
One of the Edwards imposed that kind of thing on Scotland. Is who did that? I think it was Edward Longshanks. I could be wrong on my history here. But
I remember that. That was in Braveheart, wasn't it?
Yes, it was portrayed in Braveheart. But he instituted what's called the taking of the first night. And he didn't mean any soldier like was portrayed in Braveheart.
Right.
What he meant was your liege lord. And we hear later about Ruth Bolton.
I hate that. I hate him.
To be practicing this, and Ned's dad specifically his father specifically comes down on House Bolton for not ending this, which even in this, you know, medieval world or whatever is considered old-fashioned.
Exactly.
LMR, you have anything to say about that?
That I'm against it.
Right. Okay.
But, I'm just wondering, like, Sarah, you were mentioning the Targaryens, you know, having that first right to the first night. But I'm thinking, how did that? Because I don't remember that from the book. But how did that play in? No, not the Starks, Targaryens. I think. At least that's what I think. She said. But how does it play in with them trying to keep their line pure? Did you actually say Targaryens, or did I just overhear something else?
It was the North that done it. It wasn't it wasn't South.
You're muted, Sarah.
Okay, am I muted? No,
you're good now. You're good.
Okay, so I can't remember what book it is. It might be the novella, The Princess and the Queen.
Okay,
where they talk about like anyone who, because they needed any dragon rider they could get. So they're like, you know what? There's a ton of bastards in the Riverlands. Okay. Let's just and if you're like, hey, I might be dragon seed. Let's go see if I can fly a dragon.
Okay.
But like Nettles was able to like feed him sheep
and she didn't look like Targaryen, right? She was dark hair and all that.
Yeah. So I guess maybe, you know what, I guess the lens with which you come in to this chapter, probably it just matters like what was the most recent thing you read that had anything to do with it. So if I'm high off of all the Targaryen stuff in the Riverlands, like, that's just where my head's at. I'm sorry.
No, it's understandable. You're gonna relate what you know.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, I said I was going to do this for 1 hour, and it's been almost 2. So I'm gonna say good night. I know. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah. And I'm sorry we went over, but I didn't realize how much information there was in this.
Well, listen, I think this is like this is a power squad to talk about Cat. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. All right, guys.
So is this one of the shortest chapters? Because I don't remember. I
No,
audiobook.
it's actually not very
It's not?
short.
So there are there are shorter ones too. Oh wow.
Yeah, sometimes you get it. I can't name off any specifically, but sometimes you get one that's only about 2.5 pages long.
Okay.
Mhm.
I'm going to say it's still one of the shorter ones, though, because it didn't.
It's one of the shorter ones.
I mean, we didn't spend too much time on it today, did we, Aggie?
Oh, we spent a lot of time.
Well, we did because we were stopping every other sentence like we normally do. But
Right.
and we had 5
Fair
other people
enough.
with us.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
But I mean, and we couldn't get our shit to work right. But I mean, it didn't seem like it was. It just doesn't want to fuck with it. But yeah, I mean, it seemed like a shorter one to me. I mean, you don't have a whole lot of plot distance in it. You know, you're getting to the end, you're at the end, and then you catch Tyrion.
Yeah.
You have a few memories in it. That's it. I mean, there's not a whole lot to this chapter, but the parallels and the imagery that he uses. I mean, he's setting up other things, is what it is. It's like one of the first chapters we done, Jennifer. We said, you know, there's not a whole lot going on, but there's so much going on in this little chapter.
Yeah,
it's just he's setting up for later events.
Yeah,
He
it's
set
really
up
also
Lady Stoneheart.
Yeah. There's a lot of exposition happening
Yeah.
within this chapter.
I
'Cause
wonder.
we're learning about the bright.
So when you were reading it, I'm not sure like where like any of you you read the book first or you saw the show first. Meaning like when you were reading it, did you know you're gonna have to look out for clues or were you
I read
reading
the
it
book
after?
10 years ago.
Okay.
I watched the
14.
first season of the show first, and I kept on saying to myself, "That's a book. That's a book. Get those books." And I kept forgetting because it wasn't at the forefront of my mind. And then one day I was in our local library, and I happened to run up on them, really nice, big, nice copies of them, and I checked them all out. And that was in November. For Christmas, I got a Kindle. The first book I ever downloaded was Dance of Dragons. And I've just been obsessed ever since. But the first time I read it, I was literally just like, who's John's mom? Wait, what? I got to get to this. I'm, just trying to absorb and get answers as quickly as possible. But then, I've done rereads and then I got the audiobooks, and just the more I listen to them, the more I realize that there is so much information.
I didn't catch none of that shit. I picked them up. I read them like any other normal book, and I loved them. They were an awesome read. When I got to the Red Wedding, I remembered stopping and just kind of closing the book, setting it beside me, and thinking, "Damn, that just happened." No, that couldn't have just happened. Damn.
Wow.
And so, it's one of the few series I've ever went back and picked up again. I normally will read a book once and then never pick it up again. But
same here.
I can't not pick these books back up.
Yeah,
There's something
giving,
new
right?
to
All the
catch
time.
every time.
Yeah. Wow.
I've reread Pride and Prejudice hundreds of times. I've reread all my Jane Austen many times. It depends on what it is. I reread Dickens. It depends on what it is.
That's just me. I mean, I'm not one to pick it back pick it back up afterward. If I've read it once, then I don't know. It doesn't have the same appeal. But these are written differently. These are written. These are designed to reread. He has designed these books to do that because we see that getting answers to questions we don't even know they're questions yet. And
Right.
I had no inclination that Jon Snow's father wasn't Ned, like 3 times reading it through.
I really did.
I
really did. Yeah, that's one of the only things I caught up on. That's one of the only things that I was like, wait a minute. But it was like so many other things I missed. And then
the first thing I thought I found was Rhaegar being Mance. I thought I was like, wait a second. I saw the parallels. They looked, and I was wondering, could that be? And that's how I ended up stumbling into the communities. I realized I was 10 years late.
What
I
about
was writing down mathematical equations when it came to John. Like that first time around, I had all kinds of letters like n plus a equal n. Okay, no. Okay, b plus a equals j. Okay, no. It looked. I had a notebook full of all kinds of crazy scribblings. Like my
That's
first.
the first thing I looked up was is Rhaegar Targaryen, is Lyanna Stark Jon Snow's mother, and then that brought me to all the fan fiction, the YouTube videos,
YouTube.
all of that.
That's where I started.
All of
was
that.
YouTube.
See, when I was reading it, because when I started, I first watched the show. Then when the show was done for whenever it was, the newest book was whatever it is. I think Dance of the Dragons. I think.
Yeah.
So that was the one. So I really wanted to know what's going on. So I read it or audiobooked it, and I never actually went back up until now. So when I was reading it, there were a couple of clues about Lyanna. I don't know if you. I'm sure you saw it too. It said something about blood bed. It was mentioned twice.
About
so
Sam.
far. About one was said by Ned and one was by Mary. What's her name? Daenerys' the witch lady.
Mary Mastor.
Yes.
Mary Mastor.
So
But it also says it about Sam too when he in the John 4.
Oh, I didn't catch that one.
Yeah,
but when
sacrifice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the first time it was said, I didn't know what Ned meant by that. I'm thinking, what's that? And then later on with Dany, like, wait a minute, blood bed, meaning was there a delivery of some sort? Why would she have? So it was kind of those little clues. I love it. My brain is working overtime. I love this.
I loved catching the parallels between Arya, Dany, John, and
Can we kill Dany?
What?
Can we kill Dany?
No, and you shut up. You shut your face. You shut your face right now, builder.
She needs to drown in the narrow sea.
Rick carries. I will burn you. You will stop.
Dracarys.
Oh gosh. And the sea meaning like what? Boil her or what?
Ricky's with me.
Ricky's with me. She will never die. You better stop this. So you don't start this.
Ricky, you got my back.
On top of months with this Dany stuff. Do not start this shit. I have things to do. So, we have argued for months about Dany.
Y'all, I skipped over a crucial part. Crucial part, and I think you guys are going to have caught up on this. Bubba Husky is the one who brought it to my attention. I want to give him credit where credit is due, for me at least.
Credit, Bubba.
Speaking of which, I need to read his notes.
I'll let one of you, Aggie, you or Bran and Elamar, you tell us if you picked up on this about Marillion. Let's talk about Tyrion coming in, about the conversation between Marillion, Caitlyn, and Sir Roderick, which we did a little, but then when Tyrion walks in, immediately Marillion is like, oh, good, a rich southern lord, and he asks Tyrion something, he's like, even Tyrion don't want to hear no singers, so but
yeah.
Florian the Fool.
It's pretty funny the way these books are also peppered with humor, and I found this very who's your finest singer you've ever heard? Ali of Bravo, Sir Roderick answered once. Oh, I'm much better than that old stick. If you have the silver for a song, I'll gladly show you. I might have a copper or two, but I'd sooner toss it down a well than pay for your howling, which y'all touched on. But what I'm talking about is Bubba Husky pointed out to me, and I thought it was odd too. Tyrion flipping that coin up and down, up and down.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, is that the thing about when a Targaryen is born, the coin is flipped, and which side is going to land on? Is that the thing?
No.
No, I just.
But Tyrion is not Targaryen.
I'm not saying he is, but there's a debate, right?
Yeah, I've got the notes.
George
right
is still
here.
playing with that in this book. He was still playing with the idea of Tyrion being Targaryen in the first book.
I do agree with that.
But,
are you? Do you think Tyrion is a Targaryen? Just out of curiosity here.
I did when I first read it, but it seems though George has changed his mind. He was considering making Tyrion a Targaryen. He said this himself in the interview.
I agree. But
So
I
the
think he
first,
changed his
in the
mind
first
as
book,
well.
he was playing with it. Yeah, he changed his mind.
And the
Like,
thing
I think
about
that's
it,
why we get dragon dreams, is because he was playing with the idea. I'm sorry, Elamar.
that's okay. No, I was just saying, like when the ink is dry, the whole thing, he wrote it. He cannot, write it. It's already there. He, as you said, he was
Right.
playing with the things, and it was a long time ago. Right now, he's finishing up, the series. So a lot of things can happen, and he's the writer. He can do whatever he wants to do, and he can just say, "Oh, I just wrote it to, troll you people."
And
Pretty much,
as
he
a
is definitely
writer,
troll.
you start off with an idea in your head, but as you put ink to page, things can evolve very naturally, or you can completely change your
That's
mind.
why he's a gardener.
And here is
Yes,
Bubba
that is
Husky's
exactly
side note.
it.
When Tyrion flips the gold coin mesmerizingly into the air, it made me think that Cersei's claim on the Iron Throne is legitimate. If she paid the Iron Bank back, then she, as a Lannister, is owed money from the crown that they cannot pay back. Consider that shitty chair as collateral for millions in loans. And we do know that even in today's society, if there is one country supporting another one, we see this also with Egypt and Rome. Yeah, Egypt had all the grain and whatnot, but Rome had the muscle power. And, it's very often that one country is in control of another country, whether it's openly admitted or it's behind the scenes, like Tywin Lannister has been doing. It's very much a fact of life.
Yeah, there's always that, right? We hear about, one country having, debt to the other. It would have to be paid up. Nobody could be able, to pay it now.
And they do these things on purpose. They'll lend you money they know you can't pay back, and then come in and say, well, this is ours then. Just like bad banks. This is nothing new, I mean, you've heard the stories. People who lose their home because they took the advice, and they were tricked. I mean, it's a constant theme in these books and in life, basically.
Yeah.
Bran, you there, babe?
Yeah, with my fucking earphones.
Oh, you all right?
Okay, what now?
We were just at the coin and how Bubba Husky had drawn a parallel to the fact that if you really think about it, Cersei has as good a claim as anybody because they owe her family money.
It's the whole Wizard of Oz, Yellow Brick Road, follow the money thing. Wherever the money is, that's where the power and control is.
No question about it. She is the rightful ruler in the show because she took it by conquest.
Exactly.
In the show, she did take it by conquest.
It's hard to say because, Tommen is still king in the book.
Right. In the show, though. Because I personally believe that Elizabeth of York had a much better claim than Henry Tudor. But he took it by conquest, and he had the army, and she needed some backing. So they made that political marriage that just kind of turned out happy, or just maybe not even happy, but they were able to coexist. So, but I've read a lot of books on her, and by all accounts, they really kind of ended up balancing each other out. So happier than most marriages, let's put it that way. And that's the way I would definitely put Caitlyn and Ned's marriage. Certainly,
she was lucky.
Certainly one of the happiest marriages that we've read about and seen portrayed.
Right. Because of Ned.
Thinking about all you mentioned it before. I think one of you mentioned it. If it's for love, it doesn't last. At least in the show. Can you think of anybody there that actually died of
Jaehaerys and Alysanne?
Okay.
Yeah, you're right.
They did quite well.
Good example.
They prospered.
Maester Aemon, he died of old age.
No, like meaning happily married couple.
Or the Jaehaerys and Alysanne.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were talking about, Bran. Jaehaerys and Alysanne were equals too. That's another thing. I think if you see one person has more power or influence, it doesn't really work well. You need to kind of be on an even footing with somebody. And I would say that goes for real life as well.
It does. Absolutely.
So there is hope in his books, right? There is at least one couple who survived it. No,
not. It's completely hopeless.
it's hopeless.
Expect devastation.
Marie makes a good point here.
Levels.
Cersei took the crown by murdering her enemies, which makes her queen of King's Landing. She has not totally conquered Westeros entirely.
Correct.
I would agree with that. Like Jamie says on the show, 3 kingdoms at best. And I love his droll sense of humor. I laughed out loud when he said that because I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking like, you ain't ruling Dorne, babe. And you ain't ruling in the North. And we know that Tyrells hate your guts. So, but we saw, you know, she did a number on those Tyrells.
She did. Yeah. And that's not going to sit well with a lot of people in the Reach and a lot of other noble families and a lot of the people who died there who were innocent who had family members. So Cersei cannot be that popular. Plus, she's a Lannister. And she's a Lannister with limited power without Tywin. So her days are numbered in the show.
Yeah, most definitely. But I do enjoy Lena Headey. I really do. She brings...
Oh, love her.
She brings that extra...
Love Cersei.
When you talk about just having a certain je ne sais quoi, you know, you have to give that to Lena Headey.
Can you imagine the silence? Like when she's, I mean, I'm saying because I think she will die. I mean, I think, right? That's what we're all thinking, at least a lot of people. How it's going to be, I mean, it's going to be so different. It's going to be so empty without her if she's actually gone. Like, it's, you know, it's going to be weird when
it will be unsatisfying.
They will start dying.
To build. Everyone's going to die mostly.
It better be a big time death, though. Don't give me some of this blackfish. Yeah. I'm going to go die fighting. Don't give me, you know, they hurt my feelings with Littlefinger. That was just not epic enough for me. Definitely not for Misha. You know, it better be something damn good. Yeah. Damn good.
Made for her, for her acting style and just for her character. Exactly. She can pull anything off. That lady, she can. Wow. Not even that one scene when Marcella was coming back, right? Not even one word was said, and every emotion was in that space. Every emotion.
That was
so 5 seconds.
My heart broke for her, and I don't even like her. I don't even like the character of Cersei, but my heart broke for her.
That's what good acting is like when you can be empathetic to somebody that you didn't even care about. That's how Jamie won me over, truthfully, because I thought he was such a shit. You know, you don't hurt kids no matter what, right? But then when he took up for Brienne and, you know, and then he's showboating my daddy, and then they cut off his hand. And
one-hand man.
Yeah, exactly.
One-hand man with no plan. Yeah.
So, okay, let me pull us back to where we're at, or we could talk forever, probably. Yeah. Okay, so Tyrion is getting arrested, and well, before Tyrion gets arrested, he has drawn quite a bit of attention when he walks in the inn at the crossroads, because basically, we talked about a while ago, the 2 worst rooms probably under that bell were the only ones she had left. And he basically throws money up in the air, like trying to, you know, get somebody to bite, which they did. And he's like, smart man. And draws a lot of attention.
Was that Bran?
It may have been on the show. You know, I don't remember, but
does it say a name? I don't think it says a name.
No, but I mean, we could.
I think it's his description. There's a description, and the description not just how he looks, but how he acts.
And he's free stained blue.
Do what?
He's a free rider that was in blue.
Okay.
Blue. I mean, I don't know if...
Your free rider in a faded blue cloak lurched to his feet. You're welcome to my room, my lord. Now there's a clever man.
And he's agile, so...
Probably.
I'm curious if later we get that payoff when, you know,
maybe we'll find out.
Okay, so we had already talked about when Caitlyn, you know, starts calling out to her banners, well, not even hers, to her father's. Arguably, yes, those would be her banners if she was in the North, but to her father's banners, And Tyrion goes, and the show did this scene justice, I felt.
It did, yes.
Yeah, I envy your father all these fine friends, Lannister quipped, but I do not quite see the purpose of this, Lady Stark. She ignored him, turning to the large party in blue and gray. They were the heart of the matter. There were more than 20 of them. I know your sigil as well, the twin towers of Frey. How fares your good lord, sirs? Their captain rose. Lord Water as well, my lady. He plans to take a new wife on his 90th name day, and he asked your lord father to honor the wedding with his presence. Tyrion Lannister snickered. That was when Caitlyn knew he was hers. This man came a guest into my house, and there conspired to murder my son, a boy of 7, she proclaimed to the room at large, pointing. Sir Roderick moved her aside, his sword in his hand. In the name of King Robert and the good lord you serve, I call upon you to seize him and help me return him to Winterfell to await the king's justice. She did not know.
Now with that,
Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, I was just saying, this is the very last line. She did not know what was more satisfying, the sound of a dozen swords drawn, as another with the dozen swords, you guys.
That's what she pointed out earlier.
My bad. We're already. The sound of the dozen swords drawn as one, or the look on Tyrion Lannister's face. Well, probably the look on his face, I would think. All right, Aggie, what were you going to see?
I was going to say, and here we are back in her brain, because she was just saying how unreliable most of her father's bettermen were. So she didn't know how this scene was going to play out. She was gambling heavily right now. And I find that funny because Roderick was just saying how a gambler is a fool or something.
Yeah.
And Kat made a serious gamble with that.
Yeah, he was just talking bad on
her like she was silly. Because here we have, she is possibly Hoster Tully's daughter. They don't really know for a certainty. But he's definitely Tyrion Lannister. He's unmistakably Tyrion Lannister. And somehow, in this instance, they took her word and did her bidding. But this could have played out in his
because Tyrion said that's who she was.
Yeah, Tyrion greeted her as Lady Stark. In fact, he was the one who called out her presence. Yeah, okay.
That's very true, too. But they still could have favored him and not her.
Yeah, no, they could have. And he had money.
They could, but at any point they could do that. Anybody could turn their back.
Yes.
It's not really a gamble when you bank on people that are supposed to have your back. It's not really a gamble when you're banking on people that are supposed to have your back.
Well, it is, because she just said that these people who are supposed to have her back are not reliable. So that makes it a gamble.
They're sworn to her house. It's not a gamble.
And she just said it was.
She thought it was because she had just mentioned how unreliable Lord Frey was, being called the late Lord Frey. She had what Aggie's saying, I think, is that just like right before she calls them to aid her, she had mentioned to herself.
Good phrase were. Nothing about the Wentz, nothing about the Brackens, nothing about any other house but the phrase. And they were only late.
And plus there were 20 of them, like, right? So they were like the largest group. So
right.
I guess she wanted to get the other houses to kind of not be against her, then asking after she
That's a personal opinion too. Because the fact is, the phrase just showed up late. They still fought for him. So now that she's taking personal bias into it, thinking, because they were late, they may have been considering fight for the other side.
Well, he said he was fighting for him. It says right there that he showed up well after all the fighting was through.
In her mind. Well, yeah, he showed up late, but in her mind, nobody says they were going to, there was a chance that they were going to fight for the other side. But she's convinced herself that nobody knows, because they were late. So she has a bias against them.
She does.
That does not mean that they weren't going to stand up for their liege lord.
Yeah, we don't know.
Because they proved that they will. They did. They stood up for her.
She didn't know, but I'm sure like if you would be in a room with then you had 20 people, and there's always a tiny little chance that they may say nope. And
there's always
fear. Yeah, there's that fear. Okay, what if they say And I'm sure everything happened like within seconds. She just got up and
Right.
never shut her
Right,
mouth. She was
Atlanta's
just
super
talking.
I think she probably felt the way anybody
They own
feels
that realm.
before they throw the first punch or say the first word disagreeing with somebody in a public forum. You know, it's one thing one-on-one if it's just the two of you, but if you're out, say, you see okay, let's say you're a kid in the lunchroom, you see somebody trip somebody else and you thought it was wrong, and you're the first one that says, hey, that wasn't right to do that. You know, you're always got that little bit of stuff. At least I do. I've always got that little bit of nerves in my stomach. Is this going to turn on me and everybody's going to be like, or you know, is there going to be somebody else who would be on the side writing here?
Mm-hmm.
In many situations. And I certainly always get nervous before I hit somebody first, definitely. Though it hasn't happened in many years. Practically.
If I'm hitting first, I'm not nervous.
But anyway.
Jen. You're too funny.
Oh, Lord.
All right, Bran, you have something to add?
No.
No?
I think I've addressed most of my stuff tonight. I can't think of anything right now.
Does anybody in the chat have any questions or any statements? Marie makes a good point here. But they had River Run on their side, but not the Aaron army. Edmure had already sided with Robb, but not Lysa.
I guess War of the Five Kings.
Okay, yeah, okay. No, or maybe they were having a previous, talking about something. I came in on it too late. Okay. Does anybody have a question of any sort? I want to say, hey to Pete Easy, hey Marie Hill, hey Hal Sanchez, hey Moni, Ricky Hunt, Bubba Husky came in. We had a lot of people.
Hello.
Right, and a lot of people I haven't seen in a while as well.
Thanks
Welcome.
for stopping by, everyone.
Jules Elizabeth. Oh, Brandon the Builder was in here. All right. I'm messing with you, Bran. Okay.
Who the hell is that guy?
What was that, Muffles?
Okay. Does anybody have anything else that they want to say about it or want to say about Caitlyn? Or maybe you just don't think people understand that of like what side you really stand on for Caitlyn?
Jules.
Feel about it?
Jules, get up there.
Okay, Marie, thank you. Okay, Bubba Husky says, Kat's dad was sick. Her brother sucks at life. Her uncle and sister would have been more help. Okay.
This is an awesome comment.
All right, Bubba
Yes.
Husky. Tell us how you really feel about Edmure Tully, though.
Yes, Bubba.
Oh, poor Edmure. Well, I guess that's it. I want to just say thank you so much to LMR for joining us. It was great to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Glad you came out and listened to us, bitch.
Thank
It was
you.
awesome.
Yes, it's best.
I want to say before you guys sign off and everything, Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central, I'm having a special stream about a video a friend of mine, Fire Witch, or Fiora Hexa, I believe in German, I don't know if I pronounced that right, did on John being king and Sansa being queen. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, what about Dany? What about them getting it on? What about the magical baby? That's what I
Very
said.
well could happen.
Watch this lady's
No.
55-minute video and then come back to me with that. Join us for the chat Sunday. I've got a link up.
Very well could happen.
Breaking this video down. It is so well done. She cites magazine articles. She cites actors.
It fits perfect with my light king theory too.
She cites book quotes. She cites the show. I mean, she's got everything so well covered. And anybody who makes these videos knows 55 minutes is a heck of a video. So if you guys can come, please do so. If you can't, can watch later. Okay.
Sounds good.
I'm trying to make it out.
Thank you.
All
So-
righty. We'll try
Okay.
to do so.
Fran, you want to go first, and then the ladies, and y'all take us out of here?
Well, yep.
Sansa 2. I'm sorry, Brad. Next week is Sansa 2, our second Sansa chapter, chapter 30.
Really? Only 2? Wow.
Only 2.
I'm 1,000 brands in one. I'm everywhere.
And I'm Aggie. I'm on Amino, and I'm currently on Steam It. Trying to get my Facebook page started. Sorry.
I am LMR, and I am in comments everywhere. So, yeah.
That she is.
We will find
Yes,
you.
I am. Chat with me.
Yeah, this was a great panel tonight. I think we really broke Caitlyn down. I think we really did her justice. Thanks, everybody who came. We'll be back again next Thursday, Sansa 2, chapter 30. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Yes, have a good night, everyone. Thanks.